So we had to take a mirror. Should be doing it.
We're actually live at the moment. I thought Kirsten was going to do our countdown. Sorry, everybody who's joined us.
Yes, welcome to our weekly webinars. Today we are doing a fun activity of going through how assessments is done during the different phases. We've got Claire over here. Hi. We've got Zoe over here. And then we've got Roxanne, our foundation phase, the start of everything. We'd like to start off with Claire this morning.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm going to be discussing about our senior phase. So our main topic today is assessments and how the kids go ahead and do their assessments with SEED Academy. So the first thing that they do is the tutors will prepare assessments or exams for the students ahead of time, just to prepare them in the different subjects that they are doing. So, for example, English has about 5 categories that they would need to cover. So they would have 5 different little assessments that they would need to complete for each term. We do it we have multiple ways of doing it, but there's Google Forms, there is a Word document that we do up, as well as the kids are able to do handwritten assessments.
Thank you so much. And just on that topic as well, do the kids get like scope of work or timetables like that to prepare them?
Oh, yes. Sorry, I completely forgot about that. At SEED Academy, we like to prepare the kids before having to just do an exam or an assessment. We never just throw them in the deep end. So what each tutor will do is prepare a scope of work that the students will do before they actually do the exam or assessment.
Thank you so much. Zoe, so you're intermediate. Obviously, each phase is a bit differently.
Yeah.
So obviously, different ways of doing exams and things is done. So is there anything different on your side?
So with intermediate phase, it depends on the assessment itself and the subject, obviously. So, for example, with English, because I teach English, they've got, like Claire said, different categories, right?
Mhm.
So they've got their writing assessment, they've got their speaking assessment, and then they obviously have the language test that they need to do. So for their writing, they would actually need to write up the essays, or they'll need to, they can type it up as well, but we do prefer that their planning and their rough drafts are written. So that we can actually, see the handwriting, and we can actually see that this is your work. It wasn't, like a copy and paste situation, And then obviously if you want a neat copy, you can just type it up if you're not, willing to write it. And then you've got your reading and your speaking assessments. Because in a traditional classroom, we tend to have kids come up in front in class and they present to the entire class, because that can be a bit problematic in a live session, because we've got Wi-Fi issues and tech issues. What we do is we ask them then to record a video of themselves presenting their speech as if they were presenting it to an audience. So then they would then upload their videos onto the platform that we would tell them to, and they will get marked like that via a marking tool like a rubric. For their tests, again, that depends on the subject and what that tutor would prefer. I tend to go for Google Forms. I like the way Google Forms does things. With Google Forms, you are still able to have kids type up full sentences. You can still have them doing a longer paragraph. So it's not that they're limited to the type of answers or type of questions that they can get. So again, different things depending on the assessment itself and the subject, obviously, and what they need to bring forth.
I actually like your answer, because a lot of parents normally ask me, when they do reading, how is reading being done? Is it done in the classroom? And the fact that they can actually do it at their own time and not have that pressure with being amongst students, standing up in front of the classroom with having to read out loud, or even presenting topics or things like that, So the fact that they can do the recording is amazing.
Yeah.
So I like that.
If I could add to that, I don't know how you guys feel, but when I do a recording of myself, I'm just as nervous.
Yeah.
And it's just yourself
Oh.
on the camera, and you're like, was my hair right? No, delete, retry.
And you can see the kids are also they're nervous. They're there. They're performing.
But that's also the cool thing about the recording.
Yeah.
The fact that when you're doing it in class, that is it. that's your moment. You know,
Yeah.
if your hair is looking all funny, that's your moment.
Yeah.
You just have to
Yes.
deal with it. What a video, you don't like your video, delete and try again.
Sure.
Yes.
You know,
And-
so they can have multiple attempts.
And you can start again until you feel comfortable
Yes, exactly.
in how you're presenting it, so that you're
Mhm.
not badly marked because you're stuttering or
Yes,
something like
yes.
that.
Exactly.
And again, it also still takes that pressure off of the classroom, because so many people are frightened to stand in front of a
Yes,
class and
yes.
present
Yes.
themselves.
It
And
really
that is-
enables them to like work on themselves. It gives them the tools to do it themselves and really build and
Yeah.
yes, do that.
So talking about the building part, sorry, you know, your foundation, which is the
Yes.
groundwork, you know,
Yes.
for every other phase that comes after that. And a lot of the questions that I have is, and I always say, you know, there is some reason our foundation phase, they just get it. You know, the kids love it. They're excited. So I would like to know from you,
Mm.
how do you do this?
Well, the assessments, or how do I get them
Just
excited?
I mean, everything in
Well,
general.
it's actually with Google Forms, it's really nice to use that as like you can make it really colorful. It's not just like black and white test paper that they're
Yeah.
receiving, and you can even put videos in their assessments.
And
Yes.
pictures.
And pictures, yes,
Pictures.
videos and pictures, yeah.
Like, what shape is this sign? You know, you don't even have to like use an example of what this sign stands for. You can take a picture of an object and be like, what is this shape, for
Mhm.
example?
And yeah, we love it. Like, I mean, for listening, the exercise of listening is one of the learning outcomes is listening and speaking. So obviously we've covered speaking, but listening is really important to
Yeah.
be able to assess. And so I can put a video in for them to listen to and then complete a comprehension test afterwards. And yeah, we try and keep it as not intimidating.
Yeah.
With foundation phase specifically, I don't want them to get scared every time it's assessments. It's not weighted like that. It is an ongoing evaluation. So we do have our proper exam at the end of the term, and we introduce that throughout the year leading up to it by giving formative assessments and summative assessments, and just like introducing it so that they feel prepared when they go into their next phase.
What we call a mock. We call it a mock because
Mock,
we want to prepare them before.
Yeah.
So that's the difference between like the senior phase, for example. They know what to expect with
Yes.
exams and assessments.
Yeah.
But because there's so little, or even in intermediate phase, it's that little like a test before a test.
Yes.
Because that prepares them, and you'll be surprised the turnaround when they're in the actual exam. None of them are worried, none of them are stressed. They're very calm and relaxed because they've already had that before experience.
Yeah.
Just a quick one. I'm sorry.
No, go for
I'm
it.
fascinated with the foundation phase. I'm so
Okay.
sorry. But you know, when parents ask you about, like, for me, it's always a case like, you know, so do they do rhymes? Do they sing and dance like they would do? Do they do all these type of things still online, or?
Yes, we do. We sing every day. We start class with a song every morning, especially my grade ones. I teach the grade ones and the grade threes. So I'm not sure what the grade twos are really up to. So I'm not sitting in on the lessons, but it is a big part of our, for language, for English, it's a huge part of it. And yeah, we learn new songs as often as possible. We do poetry all the time. They like one of the first lessons we do in grade one is rhyming words, and then it's a constant theme throughout the year.
Oh wow.
But yeah, we dance and we sing. At the end of the term, we play games, and they're always movement
Involved.
games, like musical statues and things like that.
And they obviously get marks based on that because obviously that is part of their development, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Life skills. Talk
Yes,
about life
yeah,
skills, what they
exactly.
do there, because life skills is very much, it's not only what you learn, it's a very practical subject.
Yeah.
So you should go ahead and talk a bit about what you do in the life skills.
Yeah, we love it. So of course they have to have a mark for their physical education,
Yes.
that side of life skills, and they do a little test on Google Forms, and then there's an instruction where they have to balance on one leg for 30 seconds if they can, and jump up and down 10 times, or run across their garden and back, or walk along a rope And I can see that the parents have so much fun with this as well, which is really cool. They go and they do it, and
And they do little videos.
yeah,
with
they
it?
Yeah.
film the
send
whole
videos?
thing and they send it to us.
Oh,
And that's the same
wow.
thing with intermediate phase as
Yeah.
well when it comes to life skills. Also, they get like the little instruction, and then a video needs to be, shown or recorded of them doing, the activity. So that's
Yeah.
like their PE mark.
Yeah,
That's
the
amazing.
senior phase for physical education, they'll probably have you need to do 10 push-ups and maybe 5 jumping jacks or stuff like
And
that.
the
And they've got to record themselves doing it. Now, if they're uncomfortable, they can edit it slightly, but most of the time the videos go straight to the teacher and nobody else.
Okay.
It's not for the class to watch, it's
Yeah.
for the tutor or teacher to assess how the kids did in the assignment
And the
given.
time. Okay.
And that was actually one of the questions that popped up earlier in the year with a new parent that started. When they had to do a prepared reading, I think it was in term 2, and told him you have to record a video. The parent was quite concerned, like, is the other kids going to see this? Like, who's actually going to see it? I was like, nope, only me. I'm the only one seeing it.
Mm.
So you don't need to worry about anyone else, because a lot of these kids, they are slightly introverted and they're not
Mhm.
comfortable,
Yes.
especially when they're new and they don't really know any of the other kids yet,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
that also helps. The privacy part of it helps.
Of course.
We have a comment from a parent there, Melissa.
Great.
My daughter will start grade 4 with Seat Academy, but she has never done robotics. How will she catch up?
Okay, so it's not really robotics
Yeah.
that we are doing, it's more coding.
Coding, yes.
And even if she's starting in grade 4, it's not a problem because everything is they start from the basics.
Mhm.
Every term, every new year, they start from the basics and build up for that particular grade. So even if she has not done it previously, it would not be a problem. So
And coding is a non-assessment subject. It's a compulsory subject,
Yeah,
but
but
it's
it's
not. It's a non-assessment.
yeah.
So there will be no written test or practical test based on the subject.
Now let's get a bit serious. So sorry, we had all the fun, but now we need to get to the more serious part, which is obviously the FET phase, 10, 11, and 12.
Yeah.
What do we do there? How do we do the assessments? Claire, you're in the hot seat here now.
I am. Well, FET phase is the most important phase because it's those classes or grades just before finishing high school. I mean, you need those grades in order to get your matric certificate at the end of the day. So vitally important. And because it's so vitally important, we take it very seriously. There's no joking around. There's no time for mistakes. It has to be on par and on top of everything. So one of the facets that we have for any exam or assessment is we work through a company called Sakaya, and they are our assessment moderators, so to say, yeah. And they fall directly under Umalusi in South Africa, who is head of exam.
Yes.
Exam. Sorry, of the exam mode. I know this stuff, but my brain couldn't get to the word. So anything that we do as exams or assessments go directly through Sakaya and receive Sakaya's approval.
Which goes to the validation of the Umalusi's
That
National
is
Senior
correct, yes.
Certificate exams.
Exactly that. Our grade 12s have, through Sakaya, our grade 12s will be allowed to write their examinations throughout the year in different locations throughout South Africa. So it doesn't matter if you're in PE or Pretoria or Cape Town, there will be a venue for the grade 12s to write at. So that covers that part.
And that is only for the final exams, am I right?
Yes, only for the final exams, that's correct.
Okay.
And again, they also get moderated through Sakaya so that we know everything is done with integrity and honesty. Yeah.
And then the grade 10 to 11, their exams.
So their exams are also quite important to us, and they also get moderated through Sakaya. The difference there is instead of Google Forms that intermediate or foundation phase would have going, or even the senior phase, is the fact of not only integrity that we need to make sure that these assessments and exams are not falsified by the kids plagiarizing, because let's be honest, if a child has an opportunity to cheat, they will try. It's nothing against their character or anything like that. It's just sometimes the opportunity is there, and copy and paste is very easy. So because of that, we've taken that away, and that is the fact that the kids have to write their answers on a piece of paper that is monitored during the examination. When the children write, the learners do their exams or assessments, it's done live with the tutor invigilating the exam. That's the first step of integrity for us, is making sure that the tutor is aware of exactly what's going on. The learners have to have their cameras on. If the camera is not usable, they have to sign an invigilator form. Now that means that a non-family member is present and is supervising that the exams or assessments are not cheated on. And then also with the integrity part comes the fact that these kids' handwriting is atrocious. Most of them can't spell, and that's nothing against the learners. Again, it's a matter of the day and age that we're in now. No one writes letters anymore to each other. I used to have a pen pal.
Yes.
No one does it anymore. Everything is digitally technology age, but at some point you're gonna need to write something on a piece of paper.
Go back to the basics.
To go back to the basics, even if it's making a grocery list.
Yes.
If I have a grocery list and I can't even read that you wrote milk there, you're not going to get milk.
Sorry, that's why I type everything out on my phone. I was copying this. But I mean, so the question I'd like to, any one of you can answer this. I mean, how do you find kids moving from traditional schooling, mainstream school, private schooling, to online schooling when it comes to assessments, exams, and things like that?
In my opinion, from what I've seen in transition situations, I actually don't see any issue with the transition, because even though our assessments are slightly different in the way we conduct them, there isn't a vast difference, in the way it's done. The test, like Claire said, for the FET phase, they will have to write the answer and scan it, scan the papers back in. That's the difference, scanning it in and sending it. Whereas in a traditional setting, you're going to sit and you're going to write your paper, you're just going to hand it to the teacher standing next to you.
And then the teacher's going to mark it.
Yes, so it's basically the same. Even with us in intermediate, and I'm not sure foundation-based does it, but with intermediate and senior as well, with the integrity situation, even if they do a Google form test, it's live. The cameras are on. If the cameras doesn't work, invigilation form. So I'm sitting there and I'm watching you. So I know what you are doing. I know if you are fiddling on the side or if you are, looking over there. You can see that.
I think the only difference between handing the paper to your teacher is that we give a gap to hand it in. But it is, again, it's part of making sure that there is integrity.
Yeah.
And so that there's a specific gap where they can't rewrite the assessment.
Yeah.
We take the assessment offline again as soon as they're done.
So there's a time limit involved. So if that time is up, the assessment is finished.
Yeah.
And do you find that you've got problems with kids not completing it on time or anything like that?
It has happened for sure.
It has happened, yeah.
But that's where we just allocate an extra 10 minutes.
Yes.
You cannot go an extra hour. That's impossible.
That's not going to work out.
But if a kid is struggling, or because you're going to get your learners that are slower than the others, which is fine. Those that finish may leave the live classroom as soon as they're finished. Then there's also a chance no one discusses answers. Then the kids that are slower, nobody knows about because they're the only ones remaining in the class. The rest of the class doesn't know who's slower.
Okay, so that's actually amazing because, normally when you're in school, you sit in that class and you can be finished within an hour, but there's 2 hours left and you've got to stay in that class.
Yeah.
So the fact that they actually get to leave when it's done, it also takes that pressure off from them as well. It's finished, it's done, I can leave now type of thing. It's just actually great to know.
What I also do when it comes to exams, let's, for example, say the paper, according to, our ATPs or the curriculum, it tells us, okay, the paper needs to be an hour. What I normally do is I will allocate an hour and a half for the test. For that purpose of kids, coming late into the exam because of tech issues or Wi-Fi connection, Or, like you said, the slower learners who take a bit longer, to complete and to analyze and comprehend and things. So I add that additional 30 minutes. So it's not like, oh, you're going over time. You're still within your time frame. Yes.
Yeah.
So normally they finish in time because I've already allocated that additional time within the time given.
Okay. Just a quick question. You know what? They are lost train of thought now. I was thinking of
So
this.
while you're pondering on that thought, I'm going to answer the one mom who messaged here. Ursula asks, how does school holidays work? So at the moment, our school holidays actually follow exactly what the school government has given as a term outline.
Yeah.
So we have already gotten next year's start and end date of each term and how long the holidays are. And we've already planned out our calendar. The only difference is sometimes the government will change slightly, especially with the COVID that we've had and the wave that hit us now. We start at the beginning of the year when we were supposed to start the year with all the rest of the schools, and then government couldn't go because of the outbreak and the lockdown. And then they started later, which then caused a chain reaction between their school holidays and their terms and hours. But we keep to the standard of what the government says is the term.
Yeah.
With maybe a day or two
Or a week.
that or a week
A
that
week.
we're off. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say about a week. I actually know what I wanted to ask each phase or individually or whoever wants to. If you have, I know that we've got scope of work.
Mhm.
And I know they get exam timetable.
Mhm.
Is there any extra that we do as an academy to prepare our learners?
Besides mock.
I'd say in the classrooms.
Yeah.
In the classroom.
Absolutely.
I'm very big on revision
Yes.
time. I work it into my term schedule because obviously every teacher needs to work out their term schedule. So within my term schedule, I actually work in revision weeks. So towards the end of the term, before they have to write their test or before they have to do a particular assessment, I work in revision. And then sometimes your revision time isn't, enough for what you would really like. But what I would then do there is I would look at topics that I know the kids maybe struggled with, that kids would generally struggle with, and then I would focus on that for revision purposes, But if I've got more than enough time, I will revise everything that I possibly can.
Absolutely. And with foundation phase, it is often that we do have enough time, just because of the difference in
Content-wise and
Content,
the
yeah.
amount of content.
So we have at least, at this term I've planned for at least 2 weeks of revision.
Yeah.
And that's going to be amazing for them. By the time they sit down, it's going to be like breathing.
And I want to mention something that Zoe spoke to us about we had a meeting yesterday, and one of the things that she mentioned she does is this program called Kahoot, which is really great, which not only doing revision of the work before the exams and stuff like that, is she also does this Kahoot form online where it's an activity that kids get to do where you have a bunch of questions and it's kind of like doing a general quiz, but to do with your work.
Okay.
And then you get to answer, and then you get like 100 points or 50 points. So it's this questionnaire, but it makes it fun.
Yeah.
And
I think
Yes,
there's another
there
question
is.
coming up there. I can't. I'm sorry. I'm blind today.
Okay.
so one of the
First, the load shedding one.
yes, what happens when
Yes.
with load shedding and problems with Wi-Fi? I think
Isn't
it's
that
twofold.
That's twofold.
It's twofold.
Yeah.
Would
So-
that be the tutors or would that be?
Let's go with the lesson missed because maybe a tutor has got Wi-Fi problems or load shedding, and or if the parent and student has a problem. So what happens then when the load shedding happens?
Okay, so with load shedding, sometimes tutors obviously don't have a backup. If they have to cancel classes because of load shedding, some tutors don't have a backup. I'm one of the tutors that does have a backup, so usually I don't have that issue of being affected by load shedding, for classes. But if they don't have that backup, we generally encourage extra classes. So like in the afternoon session when you have some time, you then have like a makeup class with your kids, to not necessarily miss out on work or be completely far delayed. So we try to encourage that as well. With the students on the student side, I would think that our pre-recorded video lessons really comes in handy in that situation because our pre-recorded video lessons are our lessons. It's actually the lessons that we are presenting. When we get to our live session, the kids should already know, most kids do know already what is coming. They already know what topic, is being presented today.
Yeah.
They know where the discussion is going. So that's also another form of revision, I would say, those live classes. So if the kids miss it, pre-recorded video lessons are there. Many a times the kids aren't even that far off. They'll come to class and be like, oh, is that what you discussed today? I watched the video. So I'm fine.
Yeah,
You
there
know,
you
there's
go.
So
that.
it's actually good because of the pre-recorded videos, because I know that, obviously our main platform is the Google Classroom. We the pre-recorded lessons, assessments and those homework and everything,
Yeah.
classwork is on there.
Exactly.
So obviously it's nice to know that you can actually go back. Now, I think what I'd like to know is for exam, because I mean,
That's-
especially now.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
was going to direct that one to
You know?
Roxanne.
Yeah.
So during assessments, if there's load shedding, and it does love to kind of sometimes.
ESCOM knows
Yes.
when we're having exams.
Yeah.
Yes,
That was actually something I
great.
mentioned early in the year. So like, ESCOM just knows when we've got exams.
Every time without fail.
Yeah.
So it's trying, but we put in procedures where they are allowed to do rewrites.
Yeah.
I think it's very rare that a tutor isn't aware of the fact that we're doing assessments and how important it is for them to show up to the assessment.
Yeah.
But for a student to have load shedding during an assessment, they must provide proof of their load shedding, switching a little video of switching on and off the light or whatever.
Yeah.
And then that we reschedule rewrites for them
Yeah.
and mark it accordingly.
Okay.
They're always given a second opportunity with a good enough excuse. For example, a terrible excuse for us is, oh, I'm sorry, ma'am, I overslept. That's a terrible excuse. And I'm
Yeah.
sorry, we cannot allocate a rewrite for that excuse. The children need to be aware of their timetable and the fact that they have to be just as responsible
Yeah.
for what's happening, as well as the tutors who have to give integrity.
Mm.
What I wanted to comment also is if the tutor has load shedding or Wi-Fi problems during exams or assessments, we have a backup tutor or invigilator that will be in that classroom.
Yeah.
A tutor will never cancel a exam or assessment because they can't be in it. There will be a
There's
backup.
always somebody else
Yes.
that can take over and assess and things like that. Okay.
We've
Claire, there's
got
a couple
quite
of there's
I
a few that
see it.
came through at the moment.
I
Do you-
see it. So sorry if we're leaning in on everyone's picture here. One of our parents has given us good feedback. My daughter in grade 7 is much more relaxed writing tests or exams with seat at home in a friendly environment and safe. In public school, she used to be so nervous and agitated with all the kids around her. So we are happy.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that.
Thank
That's
you.
Lorenza.
Thank you. Yeah. And our last question is, how is the exam papers marked? No, it's just Seat Academy and our
So
fee structure.
obviously those are different phases. It's marked differently. Am I correct?
Yes.
So let's start from the bottom
From
and then
the
move our
bottom.
way all the way to the top. Let's start with
Well, we start first with moderation,
Yes.
making sure that the papers are correct and stuff like that. When we get our papers back, we mark them according to a mark sheet that we've prepared as well for the assessment. And I mean, that's about it. Right? That's
So
pretty
basically-
much it.
So if it's a Google sheet, you get the answer sheet automatically,
Yeah,
and you
but
can see who's completed it and who's not completed.
Well, there's two ways. Yes, it will automatically tell you who has submitted and who hasn't submitted a Google form.
Yeah.
But the difference is there's two ways you can do a Google form. You can either manually put the marks in yourself, which is
Which-
sometimes better.
Yeah, I like
Because
to do that.
Google sometimes
Does funny things.
it's
Mm,
like
that's
because
the
you never
funny
put a
things.
capital late at the beginning of your sentence, even in a
Small.
math
That's
paper,
also-
the
yes.
whole question is
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah.
Or you can put a rubric in, which is it will automatically mark it as soon as the kid is done. So that's
And does that work?
not really, because as we said, our Google forms can sometimes be
Yeah.
very
so
sensitive.
it's easier or better that you actually manually
Yeah.
go through
We
every
just-
No one in
single one.
foundation phase uses that that setting in the program. We do use the Google Forms because it really is incredible to work. We mix it up. We don't only use Google Forms. We also do the either they write their answers from the laptop, the question paper on the laptop, and then they scan that through, or they print out the question paper and answer it on there and scan that through. But Google Forms tends to be like the most interactive for our
the
foundation phase.
Definitely.
And yeah, so we like to manually mark and then put our percentage, sign it, and send it back to the students.
Okay, and with the intermediate?
For intermediate, again, it depends also on the type of assessment that they've got. So if you're in a situation where it is let's say a reading. So normally readings would be marked via a rubric. So what's awesome about Google Classroom is you can actually set up your rubric like digitally on Google Classroom, and then you can like just highlight your points that you've given learners, and then you can add in your comments, regarding like comments that you would write on a normal, mark sheet.
Test paper.
Yes, test paper, you add your comments.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing, and then when you are done marking it, you can return it to the learner. The learner can see exactly where they got their marks because those points are highlighted. The mark is calculated automatically in that rubric sense, and then they can see the comments also. And the comments are private, so again, they're the only ones seeing the comments, and obviously me as the teacher.
Of course.
So that's private, so they can then see that. When it comes to Google Forms, likely is very sensitive. If you don't have a capital letter that starts the sentence, the whole thing is wrong. So what I tend to do is I already, have my answers inserted with every question. So what I do is I manually mark afterwards. I go through every single paper and I go and read every answer. And then I would mark it like that. So I'm like, okay, here you made a spelling error. So there's like a feedback section for every single question. So I can say that, okay, correction, spelling. And then I would, tell them what the correction is. Just like you would do it on a normal sheet where you will, circle the word and tell them what the error was. Same thing, and then you got like your little feedback block telling them this was the error there. Or don't forget your punctuation next time. And if the question was right, but Google decided to be sensitive and mark it wrong, you can actually manually enter the mark there, in the corner, and then they get that mark.
Okay.
Yeah. I think overall, it doesn't matter what phase you're in, whether it's foundation, intermediate, senior, or FET, the tutors will manually mark the papers. We just happen to be in a technological age where things are done so easily at your fingertips. For example, one of the things that we do have, which John has ensured that we get, who's the director, is to have our writing pads. So that makes it easy when we're marking because all you have to do is go online, put it in a PDF, and you can take your little special pen and just mark automatically on this writing pad, and the marks will show up on the paper on the computer. So there's so many different ways to do it, but we'll always manually go through every learner's work.
So even though technology has improved, we always go back to the basics to make sure that everything is correct.
Yes. The only difference is that with the senior phase and FET phase, they have to be moderated very, very carefully, especially the FET phase. Not only will they be marked with one color pen tick, there will be a second color tick because that's the moderator. So for example, Zoe might be writing the paper. I will be the moderator. I go after she's marked to make sure she was truthful about what she's put as their marks and that it's okay. Then we send to Sakaya, and they are the third moderator.
Okay.
That's the only difference with the FET phase. There's a threefold moderation.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate the talk. I think this has been a foundation for our parents as well as our students, because they are starting their final exams next week. So I think that was really, really needed. Just for next week's topic, is there a question or anything that's on there?
One parent just wanted to say thank you so much. We are super excited to start with Seat Academy in January. Thank you, Wayne. We are excited to have more parents on board, more students on board. One of the things we love to say is we are a family.
Yes.
We're not just a school. Your child is not just a number. You're not just another parent. We care. We care about the students. We care about the parents. We are a family.
Yes.
And then just to end off with Lorenza's comment, we also get a notification via email when a test or assessment was marked. So after a paper was submitted, we like to go onto email every second to check the marks.
And that is so important because, you know, a lot of people, they don't, I mean, a lot of companies, or let me say institutions, they don't actually get back to a parent. You know, they don't know how well did my child do. I mean, I think as a parent, you're actually more excited than your child is when
Oh,
you're
yeah.
busy writing an
Definitely.
I think
exam.
when I was at uni, so every like, okay, let me just space it every half an hour. My marks up now? No. Are they up now? No. Now? Ugh.
Yeah. So, guys, I really want to say thank you to you guys for your time.
Thank you.
We appreciate all the viewers that joined us today. Just so that you guys know, next week we've got the importance of numbers.
Ooh.
Yes, so accounting, physics, and maths.
Yay.
Guys, so if those is one of your interests, please join us next week, same time, 10 o'clock, live on the webinar. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
We've got a question.